And our top story this hour comes in from the United States, where it's a rare retreat for US President Donald Trump. The White House has ended its legal battle with CNN reporter Jim Acosta and restored his press pass. In a letter to Acosta, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, however, said that though his press pass has been restored, any reporter who ignored the new rules for press conferences could have her credentials taken away. Here's what the new rule looks like. According to White House, a journalist called upon to ask a question will, quote unquote, ask a single question and then will yield the floor to another journalist. The White House added that a follow-up question may be allowed, but it is up to the president's discretion. Meanwhile, CNN has said that its lawsuit challenging the White House action against its reporter was no longer necessary. CNN had sought an emergency federal court hearing after the White House said that it would again revoke Acosta's press pass once the temporary restraining order expires. The restraining order reinstated Acosta's press pass for 2 weeks. The CNN reporter's credentials were revoked after US President Donald Trump denounced him as a rude and terrible person. This was during a news conference on the 7th of November, a day after the Republicans lost their majority in the US House of Representatives. And to bring us more details on this news story, I'm joined in by our correspondent William Denslow, who joins me live from New York. Let's quickly go across to William. William, a very good morning to you. After days of pressure and a federal lawsuit, the White House has finally backed down. Indeed, a moment of victory, establishing the press freedom in the United States. You know, it's important to talk about the legal tussle that finally led to the restoration of Acosta's press pass.
Yeah, absolutely. This is seen as certainly a significant victory as far as the CNN team is concerned. Of course, this was an extraordinary press conference resulting in quite an extraordinary decision from the White House to come out and revoke Jim Acosta's press pass. We have heard from the correspondent himself, who very much echoed a tweet that he said right after that decision was announced, when he said, "Let's get back to work." He's reiterated that same comment when this news was revealed. Of course, this comes, as you so rightly mentioned, just days after the White House said they would potentially reinstate this press pass suspension after this 14-day period concluded. So certainly seen as a major backing down from the White House as far as this is concerned. But of course, as you so rightly mentioned, we have had these new regulations that have come out from Sarah Sanders, the White House press secretary, putting these rules on journalists, saying that this is largely as a direct result of CNN and Jim Acosta's actions in the past. Now, we have interestingly heard a comment from the president of the White House Press Association that says they'll fight that decision.
Right. William, that brings me to my next question. From my understanding, now that the follow-up questions will be left to the president's discretion, do you not view this new introduction of the law as a check on press freedom?
Well, that's certainly been a wide criticism of these rules that have come out. Now, the White House has said that this is simply a result of the fact that they haven't needed to do this in the past, saying it's largely because of unruly journalists like Jim Acosta. But we've heard from Olivier Knox, who's the president of the White House Press Association, who says that never in the history of White House press conferences have there been any kind of gagging on journalists asking follow-up questions, and they say that in the history of press conferences to continue, that won't be the case. So a clear message from the Press Association at the White House saying they will continue as business as normal, regardless of these new criteria released from the White House.
Right. William, are the rules a cover for the administration's loss to CNN in court? And could the White House create a chilling effect for reporters, with Trump regularly lashing out at the media?
That's certainly the concern for many in the media in the United States. Of course, let's not forget that on numerous occasions on these campaign trails, these campaign speeches that the president has given across the United States, regularly terming the fake news as what he describes as the enemy of the people. Now, at that press conference on November 8th, President Trump was quizzed on whether that was harmful to US society as a whole, of creating schisms in US society. Now, President Trump said that he is a huge proponent of the First Amendment of press freedom, but he believed that the press needs to be fair to him. He says that the US media has been on numerous occasions inaccurate. So with this clearly two very different dialogues in the United States, one from President Trump describing much of the news as fake in the media, many criticising the president, saying that's simply not the case. So while this particular case seems to have been resolved to a certain extent, these huge divisions between what's seen as the mainstream media in the United States and the president himself and his supporters deems very much is steep to continue, and we can expect that these kind of battles are far from over.
Right, William, to end with, as you just mentioned, this his constant terminology that he uses calling fake news. It's important to talk about President Donald Trump's relationship with the American media, because ever since he took over his post as a president, he has been at loggerheads with the media in United States.
That's absolutely right. Of course, it's no secret to know what type of news media the president prefers. Of course, on numerous occasions, President Trump tweeting at particular Fox News programs in the United States. Of course, Fox News very much seen as more leaning more conservative in the United States. So that very much seen as what many critics of the president deem to show a slight biases when it comes to the president, and very much pitting more of a divide when it comes to the US media, lumping the likes of NBC, likes of CNN that he describes as on numerous occasions of publishing fake stories against him, and very much in some respects heralding the reporting from the likes of Fox News. Of course, this hasn't just impacted the mainstream media as well. This has run into issues when it comes to social media as well in the past, with the president criticising the likes of Twitter and Facebook for removing certain accounts for being that he's seen as being on his side. So this very much deemed as an issue across the media landscape.
Absolutely. Very rightly said. He's been using the social media as an active tool to lash out at the media constantly. But let's hope that this latest development actually spells out victory for press freedom in the United States. Thank you so much, William Denslow, for joining us live from New York and bringing us the latest.